So I have been tagged in this video a million times, and I want to use this video to help educate. Now, this isn't about trying to prove this person wrong or prove anybody wrong or antagonize anybody. It truly is me wanting to answer questions that I hear a lot of people have. And I get how there can be misconceptions about what hospice is doing and not doing. So I just want to use this video to truly help educate what I think is going on in this video that I was tagged in. So I do have a few clips from this video that I want to show you. I'm going to show you the clip and then we will talk about it. For reference, this is a person who is on hospice and he is feeling a little uncomfortable because it sounds like the nurse is trying to quote unquote push him to be a DNR. What DNR means is do not resuscitate, which means if his heart suddenly stopped, if he was a DNR, no one would do anything about it. They would let him die naturally. And the opposite of that is something called a full code. A full code means if someone's full code, if they all of a sudden their heart stops and they are dead on the floor, the nurse, whether they're in hospice or at the grocery store and just happen to witness this, they would start CPR to try to quote unquote bring the person back. Okay, so this first part of the video is him kind of saying, I feel a little weird. This nurse really felt like she was like pushing me to be a DNR. So let's watch the video and then we'll talk about it.
I get the strongest feeling that hospice really pushes for you not to be put on the, for you to be put on the DNR list.
So right off the bat, this gentleman in the video is already kind of turned off, right? The person who was talking to him about being a DNR, I wasn't there, but probably didn't do a great job at explaining why we like to have someone be a DNR on hospice, or explaining why it's important to choose DNR versus full code, which by the way, you can be full code and be on hospice the whole time. You never have to be a DNR, ever, ever, ever. You always can be full code. You do not have to be a DNR. And I will say, not everyone is great at talking about full code versus DNR. Some people have the knack to talk about it, to educate about it without making it feel pushy or like salesy or like manipulative, right? Some people are great at just educating people for educational purposes, and some can feel a little pushy, I guess, and that would feel really bad. Particularly in this man's case, he's a young man, he wants to be full code. If you don't have someone not even educating you about why you quote unquote should be DNR, but just about the differences between the two, right? I never go into a house being like, you should be DNR, which I'm not saying this person was. I don't know what they were doing, but it sounds like from this guy's video, they may have felt a little pushy. Coming from a hospice nurse background, an ICU background, I never go in pushing for that because I have no agenda. I have no agenda, and most people on hospice who are working in hospice have no agenda. We don't quote unquote want you to be DNR. We know what it means to be DNR versus full code, specifically with someone with a terminal illness. We know the risks. We know what that looks like. Personally, I just want people to make sure they fully understand what it means to be full code versus DNR, and why usually on hospice it's better to be, quote unquote, better to be DNR. So let's go on to the next part of the video where he's talking about how it felt like the nurse was like fear mongering him. It felt like she was trying to scare him into being a DNR. So let's watch the video and then we'll talk about it.
He tried fear mongering me into not getting CPR. I asked her why. Well, if I got you, like if I catch you, like I'm throwing you on the ground and I'm doing chest compressions that, you might have some broken ribs, you might have this or that. And I'm like, oh, that's like, isn't there a middle ground, like where you can do CPR that is effective, that's not aggressive?
This is a great example of one, unfortunately, I bet this person has had some bad experiences with healthcare workers. And a lot of people have, which is why a lot of people don't trust the healthcare system. I feel like there's probably already some suspicion here, right? There's already some suspicion. And then this healthcare worker probably is not great at explaining things and maybe feels a little pushy, which I get. That can be a really hard thing. But I want to talk about this fear mongering and, making me afraid to get CPR. Isn't there a middle ground? The answer is no, there isn't a middle ground. The healthcare worker didn't do a good job at explaining things to this person, but there is not a middle ground. CPR is violent, period. There is not a middle ground where you don't get hurt during CPR. Also, I hear a lot of people say, well, I'd want CPR, but I wouldn't want to be on machines. There's not really middle ground there either. So if your heart stops, that means you're not breathing. If you're not breathing, we need to intubate you, which means tube down into your lungs and on a breathing machine, right? If we can get your heart going again. They go together. CPR and intubation basically go together. And also, movies and television have done a very poor job at showing you what CPR is, and there is not a middle ground with CPR. CPR is violent. You break sternums, you break ribs, you puncture lungs. It's violent. And it doesn't usually work. We have, again, this conception of our heart stops, we get CPR, we bring them back. That is what we see on TV. We hear a lot of amazing stories where it works, but generally speaking, it doesn't usually work. And on top of that, people on hospice are already not healthy. It's not like someone who is a healthy 30-year-old that for whatever reason, their heart stops in the mall and they are found down. CPR started, they're healthy, it works, and they make a full recovery. That can happen because you're healthy, you're 30, you're found very quickly, and it actually works out. Now, if someone is already unhealthy, their body's already declining, they might be able to quote unquote bring you back, but you still have a bunch of complications, right? So I always try to explain that to people who are coming onto hospice just so they understand. But again, I think it's in the way we say things, and truly, I always come from a place of I'm not trying to convince anyone. I just want to make sure people fully understand. Because if you don't work in healthcare, you do not fully understand. So I think this person explaining this to this man did a poor job and was trying to help him understand the severity of it all. But to him, for many reasons, he's like, man, this person's really trying to get me to be a DNR. I don't understand it. Why is someone doing this? And it can feel a little schemy. And it feels extra bad because you're talking about his life here, right? But I think it's so important that people understand, one, you can be full code on hospice no matter what. You can be full code. But I think they start talking about the bones breaking and things like that, not to fearmonger, but to tell people the truth. Because people don't know the truth. People don't know that's what it entails. And it probably won't do anything anyway. And the whole point of someone being on hospice is to be able to live out the rest of their life and to have their body slowly go into the dying process. And a huge key factor that a lot of people don't realize, 9.9 times out of 10, someone on hospice isn't just boop, heart stop, right? It's not going to be like that. What it's going to be like is this person slowly declines, right? And then once they're in that transitional actively dying phase, if they are still full code, meaning we have to give them CPR and intubate them and take them to the hospital, or really take them to the hospital and then intubate them because we don't bring stuff like that to the house, we can't allow them to die naturally. We can't allow them to do that. So that's why eventually full code really does go against what hospice stands for. Now, you can still be full code, but I think a lot of people don't understand how the dying process actually works, so they don't think of those things. Okay, this last point that he makes in this video to me is the most shocking and makes me feel the most bad. And I really want to educate on this because what it shows to me is the distrust in the medical system, which makes me, feel horrible because obviously somewhere along the lines there has been some misguidance, mistrust. So I want to clear the air. So here's the video and then we can talk about it after.
Now I'm thinking there's a fucking conspiracy with hospice and DNR. And why, I don't know what kind of conspiracy this could be. I don't know if being such a young guy, 37 years old, 38 in 1 week, is very beneficial to them. Someone so young. Why? Are they harvesting? Are they taking things that the people don't know? You know, she was like, no, you get cremated. Like, if you get cremated with everything. And I'm like, really? You don't think they empty out that cavity a little bit before they like toss you? Oh, that's a lot of money down the drain. Yeah, so if you don't know, my conspiracy is that hospice and everything else and this DNR is a way for them to harvest your organs and to make buku bucks off of it. Her next question. So what is it that you're expecting from hospice?
Okay. So first, I have tons of compassion for this young man who has a possible terminal diagnosis and the fear that comes out of it. And this person in the healthcare system with this hospice company is clearly not making him feel comfortable, right? And is making him feel kind of like on the attack. But I can tell you this with 100% certainty. We are not taking organs as a hospice company, period. One, there's so much that goes into organ donation. Period. You cannot be dead and then someone take your organs and then use those organs. That's not how organ donation works. You have to keep someone alive to harvest organs for another human being. So there's no buku bucks being made. Those organs cannot be harvested. Like, so much goes into someone getting someone else's liver, someone getting someone else's heart, someone getting someone else's lungs. So much coordination. They have whole teams, whole departments and hospitals to coordinate one heart transfer. Right? So this idea of everyone being on hospice and getting their organs harvested and used is just not medically correct. That's not how organ donation works. Anyone who feels this way or has this idea about the healthcare system, I am so sorry that somewhere along the lines, the healthcare system failed you for you to have these thoughts and feelings towards the healthcare system. I can say, as someone who has worked in many parts of the healthcare system over the past 17, 18 years, I have never, ever seen or witnessed anything of this sort. And not even on a conspiracy level, but just on a logical, how like organ donation works, this biologically wouldn't even work. So even if someone wanted to say like, oh, well, you just haven't seen it yet. Well, no, but what I do know is that biologically, you cannot harvest someone who's already dead, their organs, and use them on someone who's alive to help them live longer or whatever it is. It doesn't work like that. So that's not happening. People can donate their full bodies to science after they die on hospice, meaning like you could donate it to a medical center or a medical school. You can donate your eyes after death. Sometimes you can donate your brain just for studies after death. But this idea of like harvesting or donating is not something that happens. And a good thing to point out is that all hospice companies, profit or nonprofit, are governed by Medicare. So it is a government program, a government-funded program. So people can turn hospice into a business, hence why I can feel businessy sometimes, but they are still getting their money from Medicare. So they are still working with Medicare, working with the government to get the money that they use to make a profit with a hospice company. And I only say that so people understand that hospice is like highly regulated. It is regulated, it is scrutinized. You know, there are eyes watching all hospice companies. To me, the take home for this video is to help people understand what full code versus DNR means, that you can be on hospice the whole entire time and be full code. That means if you decide to do that, you will die in the hospital because they won't allow you to die at your house. So you will end up dying at the hospital. If that is what you want, there is nothing the hospice company can do about it. Are they going to continuously come in and recheck what you want? Yes, because ultimately their goal is to have you peacefully die at home. That is the point of hospice. And actually, Medicare will be asking us all the time, hey, why is this person full code and on hospice? Yes, they are allowed to be. But the whole point, the whole goal is to die peacefully at home. So, are you guys continuously asking this person? Are they fully educated on what that actually means? So, we have people to answer to, and those people are Medicare. Medicare will be saying to us, hey, you need to keep readdressing this. You need to keep asking them, making sure they understand what this really means. Because, yes, you can be full code, but it kind of goes against the whole purpose of hospice. The whole purpose of hospice is someone saying, hey, I know I'm dying and I want to spend the rest of my life at home getting cared for here. So that is why people will continuously reevaluate whether you want to be on hospice, whether or not you want to be full code, if you fully understand what it means to be full code and what it means to be DNR. And like I said before, unfortunately, not everybody is great at talking about it. And when they're not great at talking about it, it can make you feel like this gentleman in the video, like, hey, what's going on here? Are people trying to get something from me? Why are they being so weird and pushy? And I get it. So when I saw this video, I thought, oh man, this is a great way to educate people about how things in hospice can be misconstrued and what the reality actually is.